Hi everyone, I hope you all safe and healthy with your family and friends. In this video, we are going to learn about 11th Standard Accountancy Chapter 3, Exercise Sum number 12. The heading is Mary is a rice dealer having business for more than 5 years. Past journal entries in her books for the period of March 2018. The first transaction is March 1, rice bags bought on credit from CB rupees 20,000. So, what are the accounts are affected here? Two accounts are affected here. What are they? Rice bags account and the supplier account. Who is the supplier is? Here is CB is the supplier. So, whenever you purchased bought goods, you mentioned purchases account. But here, whenever they given the product name like purchases goods for rice or rice bag bought, which means you have to mention that product name. So rice bag is purchased here. If purchases account increases, your expenses account also increases. So expenses account increases, as per the rule of expenses account increases, you have to debit the expenses account. So in journal entry you have to write rice bags accounted are 20,000. You debited the expenses account. Then who is the supplier here? CB is the supplier here. When you making purchases with CB, you are making credit purchases or cash purchases? You made credit purchases with CB. So when you made purchases, you didn't pay any money. But you promised to CB you will pay it later. Okay. So CB is your supplier. He is the creditor. You are the liability. How much rupees you are the liability to CB? 20,000 rupees you are the liability to CB. So your liability increases. If your liability increases, you have to credit the supplier name. As per the rule, here in journal entry, to CB account 20,000, you credited the supplier name here. So what is the narration? Credit purchases is the narration. The next transaction is March 2, electricity charges paid through net banking. So what are the accounts are affected here? Two accounts are affected here. What are the electricity charges account and the bank account? So electricity charges is a kind of expenses, right? So expenses increases, you have to write the expenses name. You have to debit the expenses name in debtor. So in journal entry, electricity charges account debtor 500. How do you making electricity charges? How do you pay the electricity charges? Through net banking only you paid the electricity charges. Okay. So net banking comes under bank account. So bank account decreased. How much rupees? 500 rupees. When you making payment through bank, your bank account decreases. So bank account decreases, you have to credit the bank account. So bank account 500 rupees. What is the narration? Electricity charges paid through bank. The next transaction is March 3, returned goods bought from CB rupees 5,000. Before you making journal, you have to remember previous two transactions. So returned goods means purchases returned. Before we are going to pass the journal, you have to recall the previous transaction. That is, on March 1 you bought rice bags from CB for credit rupees 20,000 rupees. You are made credit transaction with CB. So you received 20,000 worth of goods from CB. Then you opened the bag. 5,000 worth of rice bags were damaged. Then you decided you returned those damaged rice bag to CB. Returned back to the damaged rice bag rupees to CB. So you returned the 5,000 worth of damaged rice bag to CB. So purchases return, what you do as per the rule of purchases return, if you purchases account debited, purchases account to be credited. Okay, as per the rule of purchases written, you have to write CB account debtor 5000 rupees to purchases written account 5000 rupees. Purchases written account credited. Okay, the narration is goods returned to CB. The next transaction is March 5. Advertisement expenses paid rupees 2000. So listen here, which accounts are affected? There are two accounts are affected here. What are they? Advertisement expenses account and cash account. The transaction is given clearly advertisement expenses. So advertisement means your expenses. Expenses account always debited. As per the rule, advertisement account debtor, you have to write advertisement account debtor, which means expenses increases, you have to debited the expenses account. So you debited it. Okay, then how do you making the advertisement expenses? You making through cash only, you making the advertisement expenses. So your cash account decreased. If your cash account decreases, you have to credit the cash account. So to cash account 2000 rupees credited. What is the narration? Paid advertisement expenses. Then next transaction, March 6, goods sold to Mano rupees 20,000. Which account affected? Mano account, customer account and sales account. How do you making selling with Mano? You sold goods to Mano. What basis? Credit basis or cash basis? You making sales with Mano on credit basis, because there is not giving any cash rupees 20,000. The transaction is given clearly. You goods sold to Mano, which means you sold goods to Mano on credit. Okay, so you have to take the customer name here, because when selling goods to Mano, he didn't pay any money, but he promised to you he will pay later. So you have to take customer name. So Mano is your debtor account, because he didn't pay any money. He you sold to Mano on credit basis only. Your debtor account increased. If your debtor account increase, you have to debit the debtor account. So Mano's account debtor 2000 rupees. So you are generated sales here. Okay, whenever you generate sales, your revenue increased, right? Whenever your revenue increases, you have to credit the revenue account. As per the rule of revenue, you have to credit the revenue account. How do you get revenue? Through sales only you are getting revenue. So to sales account rupees 20,000, you credited the revenue account, which means you credited the sales account. What is the narration? Credit sales. The next transaction is on March 7, goods returned by Mano rupees 20,000, 5,000. Okay. So here, before you are going to pass the journal, you have to look at previous transaction. That is, you sold goods to Mano on credit. When you sold to Mano on credit basis, he didn't pay any cash. So he is your debtor. Okay. Have you remember? Okay. On March 7, Mano returned goods rupees 5,000 worth of goods to you. Okay. What are the accounts are affected here? Returned goods means sales return and customer account. Okay, sales return account and customer account. Who is the customer? Mano is the customer. What is the journal entry? Journal entry is very simple. That is, sales return is just opposite to the sales account. If sales account credited, sales account to be debited. As per the rule, you have to write that sales return account debtor 5,000 rupees to Mano account 5,000 rupees, because as per the rule, look the previous transaction. You have to look the previous transaction. See the previous transaction. Sales return is just opposite to the sales account, right? Okay, Sales account credited, sales return account to be debited. Are you understand clearly? Okay. Then what is the narration? Goods returned to Mano. The next transaction is March 8 payment received from Mano through NEFT. Before you are going to pass the journal, you have to understand, that is, you have to recall the previous two transactions. What happened there? You sold goods to Mano on credit rupees 20,000, right? And on March 7, Mano returned to you 5,000 worth of goods, okay? Have you subtracted 5,000 from 20,000? What you get? You will get 15,000. And January 8, you received the payment from Mano. How much rupees? 50,000 rupees you received from Mano. How do you received from Mano? You received through NEFT. NEFT comes under bank account, okay? So if you received through bank, your bank account increased. How much rupees your bank account increased? 15,000 rupees your bank account received, because you received from Mano through bank, through NEFT. If your bank account increases, you have to debit the bank account. So bank account debtor 15,000. Then Mano is your debtor, right? When you Mano making payment to you, your debtor account decreased, okay? If your debtor account decreased, you have to credit the debtor account. So who is your debtor? Mano is your debtor. So you credited the Mano account. To Mano account, how much rupees? 15,000 rupees. What is the narration? Payment received from Mano through NEFT. Thank you.